Could you do that, please? Yeah, if my life wasn't so interesting, I'd have nothing to talk about. Talking about using these principles, holy cow. Namaste, friends, namaste. I almost didn't make it here, not because I was, got here 5 minutes before we started or anything, but after I told Lisa that I, committed for this date and everything, I had an out-of-town trip come up, some health issues with my mom, and then I found out Wednesday night that one of my close high school buddies passed away this week, and we had no idea that he was sick. And this was one of those guys, not just one of my regular buddies, this guy was bigger than life. I mean, student body president, voted most outstanding, likely to succeed, all this stuff. Really thought he'd do some really cool things, and his life kind of got away from him. He went out and became a minister. I'm not sure how. So he became a minister and in Deming, and I think he actually even became mayor of Deming for a while. But I hear he just ran the town. The last time I saw him was in the El Paso airport, and he was just always bigger than life, always helping people, doing wonderful things. And the story that I heard this week is that a few months ago he wasn't feeling very well, and he thought he was having a heart attack. And they got him to the hospital, and they ran all these tests, and by the time they figured out what was going on with him, they figured out that he'd had cancer. And I don't know what kind, but they took him down to the Mayo Clinic, and they did a full round of chemo and everything, and he said, that's just about enough for me. And he said, no more of that, and made his transition this week. So it made me start thinking about some things. First of all, I was very sad for his family and his friends, and then I don't know whether it's a very loving thought that comes right after, but I thought, my goodness, what was Andy thinking? What was he feeling? It wasn't just a little cancer. They said his body was riddled with cancer. This is something by my map of the world that just doesn't happen overnight. It's something that, had probably been a process, and hard for me to understand when you see somebody that's so loving and giving of themselves and what they do. And I don't know, maybe it's true that only the good die young. So I almost called my brother RJ and said, brother, would you cover for me? But then I thought, what is the best way that I could honor Andy? And that would be by doing what he did for so many years every Sunday, which is sharing a message. So welcome to our traditional Palm Sunday service. No, wait, that's the wrong place. I'm sorry. But I do want to tell you one of my neat stories about Lent. And I told this story 2 years ago. So if you were here during that one, just try to stay awake for a minute or so. See, I was not raised a Catholic. Do we have any Catholics here today? Any recovering Catholics, Episcopalians? All the fun with half the guilt, as Robin Williams would say. I was not raised in that tradition. And so I was in college with my buddy Chris. He and Andy were the best friends. And he came home from classes one day, happened to be on a Wednesday, and he had this stuff on his head. I'm like, dude, you got something on your forehead there. He said, no, this is Ash Wednesday. This is for Lent. He explained to me how you give something up. I said, okay, well, whatever. And I got back from dinner on Wednesday night, and there was these Post-it notes all over our dorm room. And our dorm room was about half the size of this stage. It was not a big dorm room. Post-it notes had just come out, and there was yellow all over the room. And it said, no beer, no Skol. And Skol is dipping tobacco, for those of you that don't know that. That's a good thing. And I said, you're going to give up beer and Skol for how long? He said, like 6 weeks over the course of Lent. I said, wow, good luck. Thursday night, party comes along. We go out, have a fun time. I come back from classes on Thursday afternoon, and what had said no beer, no Skol, now just says no beer. And anybody that's ever had to kick tobacco, I have no qualms with that. That's a tough one. So I thought, well, that's interesting. Went out Thursday night, went out Friday night. I came back from breakfast Saturday morning, and what had said no beer, no Skol, that now is just no beer, now says no hard alcohol. And so I can also appreciate that, and I think, man, this Catholic thing's pretty cool. I might have to try this out. The flexibility, I kind of like the positive Christianity version, though, of Lent. The let's eliminate negative thinking. So I like that one. So but that didn't stop my my questioning of Catholicism and things like that. I always thought, my goodness, if you're going to give something up for for 6 weeks. Why not just give it up forever? Why not just give it up for the whole time? And again, part of my own ignorant interpretation of Scripture, if you will, or what they were doing, I honestly think that any time that you're, to incorporate our theme for this month, your I am consciousness can tell the lower vibration who's in charge, I think that's a good thing. Whether it's for Lent or a day or a month or whatever, when your higher vibration tells the lower vibration who's boss, I think that's a good thing. But I just never understood Catholicism, and I thought, well, why do I need an intermediary to confess my sins? Or why are we worshiping, not worshiping, but talking to all these saints and all these other things instead of, God or Jesus or Source? It just things that had confused me over time. And I've told you all this as well, that it was studying in seminary school that studying Hinduism really cured me of my ignorance of Catholicism. Because I thought Hinduism, like Catholicism, was polytheistic. I didn't think it was monotheistic, But at least the Catholics pray to saints, The Hindus pray to elephants and monkeys and all these other creatures. And I thought, wow, well, let me, I was in a more open frame of mind. And what I learned was that all of these with the lower G, gods and goddesses, these deities, were sent by Brahman. Brahman is God, Allah, it's the one true God, because Hinduism is monotheistic. Brahman sent all these deities to meet all of the different people wherever they were on their path. All on different paths, all at different positions on these paths. And I thought, what a beautiful thing that my source, my first cause, my creator would send something so beautiful. And so instead of seeing it as a crutch and something wrong like I had done for so many years, I thought I saw it as a more beautiful thing. And that kind of just opened me up, because for so long it was just, I don't know about you all, but it was just a lot easier for me to be angry and judgmental in mean, if you will, about something that I didn't understand. Because by holding it out here, it kept me from having to look deeper within the Scriptures, within the teachings, within the beauty that is there. And so I'm very, very grateful for that. I'd heard about a different church a couple of weeks ago. Well, it's been about a month ago now, in El Paso. And I normally don't go out to different kinds of churches and stuff, but 2 different people told me about this place. So I said, well, I'll go check it out. And the name of the church isn't important. It was fairly close to my house on the west side of town. And a friend asked me to go with her, so we did. And it turns out another friend of mine was up singing on stage. And what was interesting is that into their second of 6 opening songs, Mary Lynn, I thought, oh my goodness, this is not going to be for me, because they had their big screen up and things like that, and it showed just cracked, dry mud beds with the child on its knees and the cross and different things like this. Oh goodness, this is not going to be for me. Every morning I drive the kids to school, and we listen to K-Love, or we listen to XM Radio, a Christian channel, because we listen to other radio and things like that the rest of the day. So for them listening to that, and Brenna knows every lyric of every song. But whenever there's a song that comes on that has lyrics that you're not worthy and that you're a sinner and things like that, I go ballistic. I get sideways on that, and I start saying things that I can't say in this holy place, and remind my children that stuff is not true. That they are made in the image. We are all made in the image, in the likeness of our Creator, the Most High, the one true source. And that Spirit forgives you no matter what you do. And if you don't remember anything else, that you are always worthy. And by then I'm usually going like this, and I just, that stuff just fires me up. I do not care for that. So, I guess if you're Jewish, you can tell Jewish jokes and things like that, since I don't know if I'm an ex-Christian or a new Christian or whatever, but I know that stuff, so I can talk about it that way. And that's not the part that I enjoy. But the next thing I noticed was that every reference that they had of God was somewhere out there, that it was separate from them and separate from, kept them separate from source, kept them separate from one another. And so that leads me to the month's theme, which I'll give it to you the way I heard it, was the consciousness I am forms my universe. So when I read this, I didn't know whether it meant the I am consciousness forms my universe, the stuff that's inside, the good stuff, all the really good stuff, or if it meant the consciousness that I just happen to be, which is my lower vibration. So when I say the big I am consciousness, I'm talking about what's inside, or the consciousness that I just happen to be or that I happen to hold that day, that's my lower vibration. See, the I am within me as my name, my true self, forms and creates a loving and beautiful and caring environment. Whereas the consciousness that I might just happen to be, wherever my mind is for that day, can create lack, despair, anger, and a host of other things. See, I think and I believe that your I amness is a direct result of what you think about and what you feel all day. You know, the quote says, as a man thinketh in his heart. So what are we thinking? What are you thinking? What are you manifesting? What are you multiplying? Whatever we think about, I believe, is like planning a future event. So when we're worrying, we're planning a future event. When we're appreciating, we're planning a future event. So is it the big I am that's creating, or the lower vibration? The internal or the external? I think anytime that we look out here for the answers, that you might be able to find them, but it's more difficult. That's when I end up spinning my wheels. But whenever I go within, it makes it a lot easier. And when we notice how things are turning out, you can tell whether you're going within or you're going to the external. Whether you're thinking about wanted things or unwanted things, that's what we're attracting. So whether it's the people, the things, the experiences, the situations that come to us, they come in response to your I am vibration. So which I am is doing the inviting. I've been attending some interfaith spiritual workshops in El Paso where over the last 6 weeks that studied all the Abrahamic religions. Jews, Christians, Muslims, all getting together to talk about the things that are so similar. You know, I think it's really easy for the low vibration to point out all the differences, but it takes effort. It takes enlightenment. It takes the desire to look for love and look for the things that bring us all together. I mean, I went to my first call to prayer, a Muslim prayer. It was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen. Listening, they brought a guy in, a world-renowned guy, to do this. It was absolutely beautiful. This church that I went to the other day, though, it's almost like one of those things where you can't go home. You know, the truism that they have still works, but when your vessel gets bigger, things fit differently. Doesn't mean that what they're doing is wrong. Certainly by my map of the world, it's not that way. But I find it interesting by studying with the Jews and the Muslims for the last couple of months that I don't even know all the differences in Christendom between Lutherans and Protestants and Methodists and Baptists and all. I can't even, that doesn't float my boat. I can't tell you all those things because to me they're so minuscule that there's too much that unites us. But you'll notice that if we look at, I think most Christendom looks at the sign of the cross and they think about Jesus when they think about Christianity. Notice that on my stole, you don't see that. I have the fish for my sign of Christianity. That was the first gang sign, if you will. You know, they didn't want anybody knowing what was going on out there, and they had to know where their meetings were being held and what was going on. And when you saw that, that's where you knew you would be welcomed and people of like mind would be there. To me, it's a sign of peace, prosperity, and it's something that I choose to think about instead of the cross. Not a right or a wrong, just a personal preference. I'm taking Allegra, so it dries me out. So I'll be drinking a little bit of water so I can talk today. See, I believe that Jesus never really asked us to follow him as the man, but to follow his teachings. But yet when the guy says, me and the Father are one, boy, you can probably get that stuff mixed up. And I just believe that what he's talking about is following his teachings, which were all divinely inspired, that all come from the I am consciousness. And I think that's what he was talking about. I think the most misinterpreted scripture in the Bible is John 14:6, where it says, no one cometh unto the Father except through me. But what I think is a more accurate translation of that scripture is no one cometh unto the Father except by me. And what Jesus is talking about is by his words, by his thoughts, by his deeds, but most importantly, by his consciousness. It is his Christ consciousness that he was tapping into. That's why he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. He was referring to his I am consciousness. not himself as a physical man. I heard Deepak Chopra the other day saying that Jesus was not God becoming a man, but rather he was a man becoming God, tapping into and aligning into his I am consciousness, his Christ consciousness. And that's when he said that we could do things and you will even do greater things than he had done. I think that's what that means, is tapping into the consciousness. Wayne Dyer puts it in a way that the mantra of the ego is what's in it for me, and the mantra of your higher self or your I am consciousness is how may I serve. And there's a huge difference there. So my whole spin on this thing for this month is that the I am consciousness is that holiness that's within us, and the consciousness that I just happen to be, if you cut me off in traffic and I wave with less than 5 fingers, is just what happens, is not my highest and best, because you might get both, and it just depends on how much time I've been meditating. If you could just set aside that half an hour to prepare yourself for the other 23 and a half. That's when I was learning meditation, that's what they were talking about. To me, the I am consciousness is constant and unfailing, whereas the consciousness that I just happen to be changes day to day and often dictated by external circumstances. It's the difference between going in for the answers and looking outside for the answers. Our lives can be as wonderful or as interesting as we allow them to be, but it just depends on how much time we spend on thoughts and feelings that bring us joy, not happiness, which is transient, but true joy, and how much we spend time thinking about and feeling the stuff that we worry about. What future events are we planning? I've mentioned this in here before. The universe doesn't know, Source doesn't know whether we're remembering something, we're experiencing it, or we're imagining it. But whatever we're thinking about, whatever we're feeling, we're sending that out, and the universe is going to bring it right back to us. So I'm not saying have these thoughts or ideas that, everything's just wonderful all the time, because it's not. I'm saying when those things that happen that are interesting, that we often co-create, wallow in it. Get it all over you, because man, it's. I think if we don't go through that step, then we'll have to come back to it anyway. But then after that, I think it's important to see things how we want it to be. Going through it. I mentioned the last time I was here, if it wasn't interesting enough, that going through a divorce, going through everything with RJ and my mom and everything else. If you can't see it how you want the end game to be, it's going to be tough. I was on a roof this week with a client. Don't worry, this isn't in my notes. We've only got another hour, so don't worry, plenty of time. There's a friend of ours, and she was having problems with her roof. And so I got up there to check it out. They were ready to sell their home and stuff. And all these things have been just piling up on her. And she was giving me a report by an inspection deal that she couldn't sell the house. And I said, fine. We put it down. I told her, I'm going to take care of the roof and stuff. And I said, now give me your hands. And she gave me her hands, and I said, I need you to I honor your anger. I honor you being upset. I honor your feelings. And remember that, because that's going to make the good feel so much better. Now I said, close your eyes and take a deep breath. And I said, I want you to see it how you want it to be. I want you to see signing the contract to sell the house. I want you to see yourself shaking hands with the realtor and the new buyer and things like that. Her husband's Greg Foster. He's 7'2". He's the coach assistant coach for the Philadelphia 76ers. I said, do you think Greg has been focused on the losing? And for those of us that don't follow NBA, because I don't until the championships, they just set a new record for the longest losing streak in NBA history. 26 games. I said, do you think, and he's there, she's here, raising the kids by herself, trying to get the house ready. I mean, the troubles of the world all on her shoulders. And I said, do you think Greg has been just thinking about each and every game that they lose? Or is he building a program? Is he thinking about how it's going to be when they win the championship? And I said, I really need you to focus on that. And so I hope that helped her. The art of allowing means reaching for the thought that feels best. Not the thought that's the real thought. Not the thought that's telling it like it is. And you all have heard me say this before. Tell it like it is if you like it like it is. And tell it like it is if you want it to stay like it is. But if you don't like it like it is, tell a different story. Make up a new story. Remember, the mind doesn't know if you're remembering, experiencing, or creating. Create a new story. Tell it like you want it to be until it is like you want it to be. Remember that? And then I have to share this with you as well. Here's the technological part of the program. Okay. Ooh, lots of new emails. There is no right or wrong way. This came in yesterday. There is no right or wrong way to tell your improved story. It can be about your past, present, or future experiences. The only criterion that is important is that you be conscious of your intent to tell a better feeling, improved version of your story. Telling many good feeling short stories throughout your day will change your point of attraction. Just remember that the story you tell is the basis of your life, so tell it the way you want it to be. Go within for the answers. They're not out here complaining about stuff that just holds us in a place where we don't want to be. Got to get past that. We talk about the law of attraction and telling this better story, and that's because we're creating whatever we're sending out. So every day, if you were just to take a few minutes and go within to the I am consciousness, this is what we're working towards. Focus on seeing yourself in joy, feeling yourself in joy, imagining only joy in your life. And again, I've said this in here before, if you have to remember getting off of a roller coaster or the birth of a grandbaby or just whatever fires your rockets, think about that. More importantly, feel that, because that's what you're going to be sending out. You'll be creating more of that. And it makes the other stuff easier. See how you want the end game to be. So, for those of you that already have not fallen asleep, do me a favor. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. I want to take you through something that Master Ko gave us that talks about the I am. And just relax. This is called I am the soul. I am not the body. I'm not the emotion. I'm not the thought. I am not the mind. I am the soul. I am a spiritual being of divine intelligence, divine love, divine power. I am one with my higher soul. I am that I am. I am one with the divine spark within me. I am a child of God. I am connected with God. I am one with God. I am one with all. All is well, and so it is. Amen. So as you release this urge to look outside for the answers and you find the ease and the ability to access your I am consciousness, all this will grow within you. It gets easier and easier. I have a quote that says, "The blossoms vanish of themselves as the fruit grows. So too will the lower self, the false self, the ego vanish as your I am consciousness grows within you." Turn within to access your divinity. That's where the answers are. It says, "Be still and know that I am. I am that I am." And namaste.